You've been doing everything right. Texting back fast, being emotionally available, complimenting her, planning the dates, making sure she feels special. And yet, the more effort you put in, the more distant she becomes. Her replies slow down, her energy drops, she's suddenly busy. And now, you're left confused, frustrated, and asking yourself, what did I do wrong? But you didn't do something wrong. You did too much of what they told you was right. You've been programmed to chase, to prove, to perform, and it's killing your value. She didn't pull away because you weren't good enough. She pulled away because you were too available, too reactive, too ready to give her the spot in your life she hadn't earned. And now, she's lost interest. Not because you're not worthy, but because your energy was free. In this video, you're going to learn the truth. The raw, uncomfortable truth about what she really thinks when you don't chase her. We're exposing the system that's been weaponized against you. If you've ever had a woman pull away after you gave her your best, if you've ever felt used, unseen, or replaceable, this will explain everything. And more importantly, it will show you how to take that power back. You'll learn how to stop giving what hasn't been earned, how to reclaim your focus, how to build the life she wants to be part of, but can't control. This isn't about getting her back. This is about getting you back. Because once you see what really happens when you stop chasing, you'll never look at attraction, or yourself, the same way again. Number 1. Why isn't he chasing me? She walks into every situation expecting the same outcome. Validation on demand. She knows what happens when she posts a picture, sends a vague "hey," or walks past a man. Attention floods in. Most men play their role like a broken record. They validate, pursue, respond, obey. She's trained by the modern world to expect this. But when you don't chase, when you don't give her that automatic emotional treat, it doesn't just confuse her. It forces her into discomfort. She starts watching you more closely, inspecting your behavior for clues she never had to look for before. She asks herself, why isn't he responding? Why didn't he notice my new hair? Why did he walk away after I smiled? You flip the script, and now she's the one doing the math, trying to decode something she isn't used to decoding. You disrupt her pattern. And that disruption is not just interesting, it's psychologically powerful. It makes her feel something modern men rarely trigger in women anymore. Doubt. But not the kind that hurts her. It's the kind that wakes her up. Suddenly she realizes not every man is predictable. Not every man plays into her expectations. And that moment right there, it's the first time she starts taking you seriously. Because now you're not another face in the crowd. You've shown her that your attention is earned, not donated. This confuses her. It frustrates her. But most importantly, it pulls her in. You now hold something rare, something she can't control. And in a world where most women are addicted to controlling attention, that lack of control doesn't push her away. It makes her obsessed. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about becoming a man who's hard to distract. A man with goals, mission, vision. If she's not your priority, she has to fight for a place in your focus. You're no longer chasing because you've already chosen your direction. And if she wants access to that journey, she has to offer more than looks. She has to offer peace, loyalty, cooperation. Most won't. But that's fine, because you're not moving based on how many women like you. You're moving based on what you've committed to building. This confuses her further. Why aren't you trying to impress her? Why aren't you proving yourself? Because you've already proved yourself to yourself. That's what makes her look at you twice, and not just because you're different, but because you're better. Better than the man who sacrifices his purpose for a smile. Better than the man who needs her to feel whole. You've shown her you don't need her validation to feel alive. You've become a man who values himself more than her reaction. That makes you valuable to her, whether she admits it or not. So she keeps checking your stories. She keeps looking for you in rooms. She keeps watching your distance, and that distance starts making noise in her mind. It echoes, it burns, and it doesn't go away because you didn't chase. You let her feel the loss of something she never fully had. That is power. That is presence. That is why she can't stop thinking, why isn't he chasing me? And if you want to keep living this way, make sure your days are filled with pursuit of your own mission. Track your time. Audit your thoughts. Redirect emotional energy away from women and into results. She can feel it when your attention isn't free. She senses that you're not like the others because you're not available like the others. You're building. You're focused. You're not chasing because you're already leading, and she can either follow or fall behind. Either way, you're not turning around. Number 2. Is he too good for me? The moment you stop chasing, she doesn't just feel confused. She feels challenged. She feels something modern men rarely make her feel anymore. Comparison. Not between you and other men, but between herself and her expectations. She expects attention, adoration, compliments, constant texting, romantic overload, immediate responses, and you deny all of it, not because you're playing a role, but because you've outgrown that game. And now she sits in that space between her ego and her doubt, asking herself quietly, is he too good for me? This isn't just her wondering about your status, it's deeper. She begins examining everything about herself, how she looked when she saw you, how she spoke, what she said. She replays the interaction. She stalks your page. She compares herself to the type of woman she thinks you'd actually want. She starts picking herself apart mentally in ways you never even intended. And now you're in her head without saying a word. Why? Because your lack of reaction was the reaction. Your refusal to overvalue her beauty made her rethink her own perception of power. You didn't fold. You didn't gush. You didn't worship. You kept your rhythm, your focus, your energy. And that, to her, feels elite. She feels like she's suddenly on trial for your attention, and that's a role reversal she's not used to. This is where women who are used to attention start falling into obsession. They're not prepared for a man who doesn't immediately fall into line. And when you don't, she starts assigning high value to your behavior, not because you bragged, not because you showed off, but because you withheld. You controlled your energy. You weren't desperate. You weren't starving for her validation. And in a world where most men are starving, your self-control makes her feel like she's standing next to someone she might never fully access. And that's intoxicating. This fear of not being enough for you doesn't drive her away. It pulls her in, because now she's the one trying to figure out what it would take to impress you. And if you hold your line, if you continue being a man who isn't moved by the superficial, who requires depth, who lives for principle, who practices stoic restraint, she will either rise to meet your standard or exit your life frustrated. And both are victories. Why? Because you didn't bend your standard to meet hers. You showed her that a man with a mission doesn't need to chase a woman for validation. You operate from vision, not emotion. You are not another man proving himself. You are already proven. You are rooted in principle, and that principle does not allow you to pursue someone who offers surface and demands royalty. If she's going to be in your life, she must match the energy, discipline, and purpose you carry. She must enhance, not distract. She must respect, not test. And if she feels like she's not enough, that's not your problem. That's her moment to level up or step back. Because when a woman senses she's not enough for a man who values himself deeply, she either transforms or exits. And in both cases, you win. Because you never needed her to see your worth. You only needed to live in it daily. And when that shift begins, when she starts asking herself, is he too good for me? You need to know exactly how to handle it. how to keep your power, how to live like a man who doesn't fold, doesn't chase, doesn't compromise. That's why I created the Stoic Relationship Blueprint, a step-by-step guide for men who are done playing games. It's not just advice, it's a full transformation map, rooted in real psychology and Stoic principles. And once you get it from the link in the comments, it's yours for life. Every lesson, every mindset shift, every strategy, right there in your hands whenever you need it. No subscriptions, no expiration, just clarity, control, and the tools to rewrite your entire story with women, with yourself, with life. If this video speaks to your soul, that ebook is your next move. Own it, live it, reclaim everything. Number 3, he must have other options. When a man doesn't chase, when he doesn't double text, when he doesn't fall over himself to impress or validate, her mind automatically assumes one thing: he must have better options. She doesn't rationalize this through logic. She feels it deeply, because every other man floods her notifications the second she posts anything. Every other man reacts. Every other man tries. But this man, you, don't. And that defiance of modern male behavior triggers something ancient in her psychology: the fear of being outcompeted. Now, she's not just wondering if you're interested. She's wondering who else you're interested in. She starts checking your page more, watching your followers, reading your comments. She's looking for the her that replaced her before she even had you. And this is where most men mess up. They think they need to actually have 10 women to make her jealous. You don't. You just need to behave like a man who has options. Because if your energy says you're not desperate, you instantly feel like a man who's valuable. That's how it works. Women don't need proof. They go off how they feel around you. And when you give her the impression that you're not orbiting her, that she's not the center of your attention, that you're not waiting by your phone, you suddenly become a puzzle she can't solve. And puzzles are addictive. So she tries harder. She posts thirst traps. She texts you suddenly, or randomly watches your story hoping you'll notice. But you don't play into it. Not because you're trying to be cold, but because you're too focused, too centered, too selective. And this drives her deeper into the loop of imagination. She starts crafting scenarios in her head. Who are these women you're giving your time to? What does she look like? Is she better than her? That obsession doesn't come from you saying a single word. It comes from what you withhold. You've triggered competition, not between you and another man, but between her and a ghost she can't see. And this invisible rival is more powerful than any real one, because she can't prove you're not seeing someone. She can only feel it. Your cool demeanor, your relaxed tone, your delayed replies, your calm refusal to validate her antics. They all scream, "This man is not starving," and that makes her question if she's even on your radar. This is how attraction builds, not from chasing, but from leading. You don't need to pretend to be surrounded by women. You just need to live like your time is too expensive for emotional charity, like your energy is reserved for women who bring value, not vanity. And when she senses that, she recalibrates. She either steps up to prove she's worth your time, or she steps back out of fear she won't make the cut. And either way, you win, because now she's not focused on what you can give her. She's focused on what she must become to earn a place in your life. And that shift, when she begins improving for you without even realizing it, is a result of your refusal to chase. She doesn't admire the man who needs her. She admires the man who could have her and still chooses himself. That's power. That's leverage. That's why she can't stop thinking about who else might be in your life. Because deep down, she knows she's not the only one trying to impress a man like you. Number 4. Did I lose my power? When a woman feels that her presence no longer moves you, no longer alters your behavior, no longer compels a reaction, she doesn't just feel confused. She feels powerless. And that cuts deeper than rejection, because rejection is external, it's situational. But powerlessness, that's internal. It attacks her sense of self-worth. You see, she's used to power working. She knows how to flip her hair, glance sideways, lean in, post a story, text at just the right time, and most men fold. Most men chase harder when she pulls away. Most men amplify their effort. But not you. You step back further. You hold your line. You keep your focus. You give her less, not more. And suddenly, her go-to strategies fail. She sends the passive-aggressive text, and you don't reply for hours. She hints at other men, and you don't even blink. She tries to provoke a reaction, but nothing lands. And now she's spiraling. Because the moves that always worked no longer work. She feels invisible, not ignored, ineffective. And that is her nightmare. Because power for her is not about dominance, it's about control. The ability to move a man emotionally gives her power. But when she tries and fails, she doesn't get mad. She gets nervous. She starts to wonder, what's wrong with me? Why isn't he responding? Is he done with me? And now she's questioning herself in ways she hasn't before. She starts trying harder, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear that she lost something she thought was guaranteed. Influence. But here's the truth. Her power only worked because men gave it to her. They handed it over willingly. They bent, chased, proved themselves, and gave up control. You've reclaimed yours. And now she's facing the uncomfortable reality that a man with true standards, emotional regulation, and purpose cannot be moved by cheap tactics. And if she wants to earn back that feeling of power, she'll have to go deeper. She'll have to offer more than games. She'll have to show real character. And that terrifies her. Because most women haven't had to develop that side of themselves. They've lived in a world where attention is currency, and they've never had to work to earn it. But now they're facing inflation. You've raised the price. And she's realizing she may not have the internal value to meet your standard. That's not your problem. That's her awakening. And whether she steps up or not, you remain unmoved. Because your sense of peace is no longer in her hands. Your day doesn't revolve around her responses. Your worth isn't tied to her attention. And that makes her feel something modern women rarely feel, the fear of irrelevance. And that's exactly what happens when you stop chasing. You don't just take back your time, you take back her illusion of control. And the woman who thought she held all the cards suddenly realizes you're playing a different game entirely. Number 5. Am I not enough anymore? When a woman begins to sense that your attention is no longer automatically hers, that your energy has been retracted, and your eyes no longer chase her every move, she doesn't just feel distanced, she feels exposed, and that exposure begins to whisper the most brutal question into her mind. Am I not enough anymore? Not because you said anything disrespectful, not because you insulted her or belittled her, but because you stopped responding in the way she's built her identity around. She's used to her beauty creating gravitational pull, used to her charm turning men into orbiters, used to never having to question her value, because men lined up to remind her of it. But you, by pulling back, by reclaiming your time and attention, you force her to confront the part of herself she's ignored, her real worth beyond appearances. And that confrontation is something she's not emotionally equipped for, because it's rare in her world. In her world, men validate for free. You've broken that model. You no longer hand out compliments like coupons. You don't give effort in exchange for basic presence. You've created a world where your attention isn't a default setting. It's an earned privilege. And now she's in free fall. Every man before you reinforced a truth she believed, that she is inherently enough simply by existing. But now, she feels unchosen, not rejected, unselected. She feels herself slipping out of the spotlight, and it terrifies her. Not because she's afraid of being alone, but because she's afraid of being ordinary. That's what stings. You don't flinch when she talks. You don't melt when she smiles. You don't move your life to accommodate hers. And this absence of reaction becomes the loudest mirror she's ever faced. It shows her that what used to work no longer works. And in that moment, she either evolves or she tries to escape the mirror. Some women start posting more. Others start texting men from the past to rebuild that sense of being desired. But if she still wants you, if she still senses that you're the one she truly admires, she starts recalibrating who she is. She starts paying more attention to your values, your language, your schedule. She tries to match your frequency, not because you asked her to, but because you gave her a new experience, a man who isn't seduced by shortcuts. And that's when the transformation begins. She might not tell you this, but she'll show it. In effort, in humility, in how she listens instead of always speaking. You see, when a woman senses she's not enough, she either breaks down or builds up. And that build-up, if it happens, is because she knows you won't settle for less than growth. But here's the secret. Even if she doesn't change, you do. You now live with a filter, a lens that sees through the facade, through the lashes and filtered selfies, through the flirty distractions, and you only respond to substance. And because of that, you no longer fall into emotional traps. You no longer respond to breadcrumbs or half-efforts. You give no reward to the minimum. This frees you. It empowers you. Because the fear she feels, am I not enough anymore? That used to be your fear. You were the one wondering if you were enough when she started pulling back. But now, you hold the mirror. Now, she reflects. And your power. It's in the silence that speaks louder than begging ever could. It tells her that access to you isn't guaranteed, and that if she wants to feel like she's enough, it's no longer up to your compliments. It's up to her actions. Number 6. He's not like the rest. When you act from deep principles, when your life has structure, and your emotions have discipline, and your actions follow vision, not validation, you start separating yourself in ways that most women don't even know how to process at first. She's seen the typical script 100 times over. Guy meets her, she gives minimal effort, he overextends. He flatters, he texts non-stop. He offers gifts and reassurance and presents without earning a thing from her. He abandons his own mission to make her feel special. And it all ends the same way. She gets bored. But when you enter the picture and do none of those things, when you speak clearly but don't overshare, when you listen more than you explain, when you smile calmly instead of drooling, when you see her beauty but don't become consumed by it, you flip a mental switch in her brain that starts rewriting everything she thinks she knows about men. She begins to realize you're not here to chase her. You're here to observe her. You're not trying to win her. You're letting her qualify herself. And that energy shift changes the entire dynamic. Now, she becomes the one doing the chasing, not out of manipulation, but out of admiration. You become the standard, the one who didn't move when she tried to trigger a reaction, the one who stayed on purpose when she pulled away, the one who refused to flinch, even when she tried to make you feel replaceable. That behavior, stoic, grounded, emotionally sovereign, it's so rare, so foreign, that it haunts her long after your interaction ends. She thinks about you days later. She checks to see if you viewed her story. She wonders what you meant when you paused before responding. Because you live in a way that requires interpretation, and that mystery is addictive. But here's what's critical. You're not trying to be mysterious. You're just not trying to impress her. That alone sets you apart. That lack of thirst, that emotional detachment, that ability to walk away without anger or explanation, it radiates power. And in a world where men are constantly trying to prove, to convince, to perform, your restraint becomes the ultimate flex. You're not like the rest because you don't need what they need. You don't need validation. You don't need attention. You don't need her approval. You already have yours. And the more she senses that, the more she starts adjusting herself, consciously or not. Her tone softens. Her pride starts shrinking. She starts asking questions instead of talking about herself, because she knows that if she's not careful, she'll lose a man who doesn't hesitate to walk, a man who doesn't fear losing her. And that's the kind of man she tells her friends about. Not the one who chased, but the one who didn't. The one who saw her clearly, treated her kindly, but never begged, never bent, never begged for connection. That's who you become when you're not like the rest. Not a man who performs for love, but one who stands in it without fear, without compromise. You become unforgettable, not because you tried, but because you didn't need to. Number 7, I don't feel seen. There's a different kind of pain that hits a woman not when she's rejected, not when she's ghosted, but when she's no longer noticed. Not because the man can't see her, but because the man doesn't react to her. And in that absence of reaction, in that calm stillness where attention once flowed freely, she begins to feel something modern validation culture has protected her from for years: emotional invisibility. Not the invisibility of someone ignored for no reason, but the kind that happens when she's no longer interesting enough to hold your attention. When you were chasing, she could feel her worth reflected in your desperation. Your texts, your compliments, your overcaring, the way you bent your schedule to fit her world. It all reassured her she was still important. But now you don't ask how she's doing every morning. You don't comment on her outfits. You don't lean in when she enters the room. You've shifted, quietly, sharply. And in that shift, you've placed your focus back on your life, your purpose, your direction. You've become a man who does not flinch at the withdrawal of a woman's energy. A man who stays on mission regardless of her involvement. And she doesn't know how to process that. Because you haven't been mean. You haven't been cold. You've simply stopped giving her the emotional reaction that her entire sense of self has been built around receiving. Now she doesn't feel punished. She feels unseen. And the weight of that is something no amount of likes or thirsty DMs can lift. Because your attention was different. It was valuable. It was intentional. It had substance. So when you stop giving it freely, it can't be replaced. She can post thirst traps. She can chase empty compliments. But she knows deep down, it's not the same. You saw her in a way others didn't, but you stopped. Not because she changed, but because you did. And now she's trying to provoke a reaction again, even in the smallest ways. She brings up memories. She tests your interest. She pretends she's over it, but still checks if you're watching. And all of this comes from the ache of emotional silence. Not the silence of blocked contact, but the silence of indifference. The silence of a man who no longer feels compelled to orbit her. That's the moment she realizes she's no longer the center of your world. And if you're still consistent, still grounded, still building yourself instead of chasing her approval, she starts to chase. Not for your love, but for your focus. That focus to her means everything, and she'll try to earn it back. She'll soften, she'll shift, she'll ask more questions. But the key isn't how she reacts, it's how you respond. Because the goal isn't revenge. The goal is to stay rooted in the life you're building. If she brings value, peace, respect, let her in. If she brings noise, drama, confusion, keep her out. Because her feeling unseen is not your problem to solve. It's her sign to step up or step back. And you don't move either way. Because your peace is now priority, not her presence. Number 8. What if he walks away? This is the question she dreads the most. Not because she's afraid of abandonment, but because she's never had to earn a man's presence before. Most men, even after being disrespected, lied to, taken for granted, still stay. They stay because they're scared to be alone. They stay because they've placed her at the top of their life, thinking if they just give more, she'll change. But you're different. You've shown her something far more unsettling than silence. You've shown her you can leave, and not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a quiet, unshakable one. You've shown her that your loyalty is conditional, that your time has requirements, and that your presence is not a guarantee, it's a choice. And that changes everything. Now she's thinking not about what she wants, but about what she hasn't earned. She's thinking about the look in your eyes that says you're not afraid of the exit. The way you move like a man who's already accepted loss before it even happens. And this doesn't scare her because you're threatening her. It scares her because she knows it's true. You're not bluffing. You've walked away before, and you've survived. No, thrived. And this terrifies her, because now you're not just a man she likes. You're a man she has to respect, and that respect doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being principled, from being the kind of man who doesn't tolerate confusion, who doesn't accept disrespect, who doesn't argue for his place in someone's life. You've become the man who can disappear, not in a moment of anger, but in a moment of clarity, and she can feel that, in every word you don't say, in every message you don't send, in every boundary you don't bend. You hold your frame not because it's a game, but because it's who you are now. And she realizes something dangerous, that if she doesn't fix her behavior, if she doesn't show up differently, if she doesn't offer more than just presence, she will lose you. Not to another woman, not to a rival, but to your own standards. And that's what cuts her deepest, that your discipline, not another person, is what could cost her your presence. And there's nothing she can argue against. No manipulation works here. No guilt trips land. Because you're done chasing, done proving, done convincing anyone of your worth. You are the man who walks when peace is compromised, the man who does not wait around for emotional charity. And when she asks herself, what if he walks away? She already knows the answer. If she doesn't level up, if she doesn't shift from testing to respecting, from entitlement to effort, you will. And when you do, she won't just miss you. She'll remember you as the man who changed her view of what a real man looks like. And that imprint, that stays with her forever. If you're tired of chasing women who only respect men who don't need them, tired of waking up wondering why it always ends the same way, then today is your turning point. Because the Stoic Relationship Blueprint isn't just an e-book. It's the exact playbook that will show you how to take your power back, step by step. It's written for men who are done being confused, done wasting years on women who don't see their worth, and ready to become the kind of man who never has to beg for love again. The kind of man who leads, who commands respect, who never chases and always attracts. If anything in this video hit you in your chest, don't scroll past. Grab the book now. It's linked in the comments and it's yours forever. You'll never see dating, relationships, or yourself the same way again. Comment, I am the prize, if you're ready to become that man. Like this video. Subscribe, not just to support the channel, but to help more men find the truth before they waste years they'll never get back.